order this Beaufort County Operations Meeting. Today is June 9th, and this meeting is being conducted in a hybrid fashion. Just for you all to know, I'd like everybody to go around the room and identify who's here in the room. Molly.
Dick Geyer. Robert Downing. Rob Corbin.
Tricia Goodrich.
Wendy Cartledge and Karen Stoddard will be back.
Okay, great. All right, well, let's start our meeting, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you all would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and I believe that Ms. Boatwright and myself are present as the Operation Committee members. Is Mr. Smith online?
Yes. He was.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I didn't see him. Wonderful. Okay, so Mr. Smith, the next order of business is to approve the agenda, and I'm going to hand the mic over to you so I can make a motion. So I move that agenda item review of OE8 and OE9 construction be moved on the agenda to after the Buck Island Road Sewer System easement request.
Second.
So moved.
You got the gavel, Mr. Smith.
Okay, my bad. Okay. Any discussion on that? We have a first by Mrs. Fidrich and a second by Mrs. Boatwright, correct?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. You're moving it to after the Buck Island?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any questions? Does anybody else have any questions?
No, sir.
I was going to ask, was there a reason why we were moving it, or?
Yes, Mr. Smith, the reason I made that motion is that I believe that the review of those OEs could take and should take a significant amount of time. And if they're at the end of the agenda and we end the meeting, we could always call a special called meeting to just go over the OEs.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. So with no more questions, there wouldn't be any more questions out there. If not, I'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Okay. Ms. Fidrich, yes?
Aye. Yes. Boatwright.
Aye, William Smith.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Mr. Smith, I will take the gavel back. Thank you, sir. Robin, do we have any public comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, my bad. Now, because we moved that, now we have to approve the agenda. So can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda. As
Second.
what? Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Any more discussion about it? Oh, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Okay. And so, Robin, my apologies, but no public comments, right?
Correct.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is approval of the committee meeting minutes. All right, let's start with May 5th. Do I have a motion to approve the May 5th committee meeting minutes?
I move that we approve May 5th committee meeting minutes.
I'm going to stay because I didn't have the chance to look over them.
Okay, I'll second that. So, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Mr. Smith, you're abstaining, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on to the May 12th committee meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the May 12th committee meeting minutes?
I move that we approve the May 12th committee meeting minutes.
And I will second that motion. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstention.
Thank you. Thank you. It was 2 ayes and 1 abstention. All right, the next item on our agenda is to review ARSS 48, First Aid 7 and Emergency Care.
Good afternoon, members of the committee and other board members and staff members. I would like to introduce Ms. Denise Unruh and Ms. Karen Stoddard, who are nurses. And Ms. Stoddard is present with us today, and Ms. Unruh is available via Zoom. And I appreciate so much the opportunity that I've had to work with them with respect to the revision of this administrative regulation. And the purpose for the revision is one, to update that we contact emergency medical services in the event of an emergency, and that first aid is administered and emergency care is administered in accordance with BCSD clinical nursing policies. The district no longer has a health services procedure manual. And also the statute provides, under no circumstances shall a school employee, including a school nurse, follow the terms of a do not resuscitate DNR instruction signed by the parent guardian of a student. These instructions are not binding upon the BCSD or its employees, as state law provides that minors are ineligible for DNR orders. And Ms. Stoddard, since you're present, and Ms. Unruh, could you just briefly talk about what we do as in the event of an emergency, what a nursing procedure is?
Does Denise want to do it?
Denise, do you want to speak, or would you like Karen to speak?
It doesn't matter. Both of us, we know it well. Karen, you want to do that? Go ahead, Karen.
Okay, so we have been following this protocol throughout many years. If the nurse is present or if the nurse is absent, we have a committee together. It is signed off by the principal. I do have some copies if y'all want to look at it. But if EMS is called, the nurse makes an initial assessment. Yeah. And the nurse would. That's funny. Nurse makes the initial assessment and then she calls EMS. There is a plan in place to document who's going to give CPR, who's going to provide for the rest of the classroom, and that is also with the nurse present, and that is also if the nurse is not there during that day. All of that is discussed and in collaboration with the principal.
Okay.
Anyway, any questions?
I mean, these protocols are reviewed every year with the nurses at the beginning of the year. And whenever we hire a new employee, we orient our new nurses to make sure that everybody is familiar with our standard of care here in the district. So we want to keep our staff and students safe.
You know, I'm going to add a couple things there. The nurses making the assessment, the team, we go through this with them. Someone has actually called the parents. Someone has actually initiated EMS. We have a person there taking notes. We have a person there if it's a seizure, timing the seizures. And someone has gotten the health card information for EMS. So everybody's got their jobs, and that's detailed in the emergency present for nurse, or if the nurse is absent. It's got the different people listed that are responsible for that. We also make sure that we have members on the team that are CPR certified in addition to the nurse.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee members?
Me. Ooh,
Yes,
me.
ma'am.
Ingrid and Earl's hands are up.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ms. Wright and Mr. Campbell. Go
Um,
ahead, Ms. Brown.
Oh, yes. My question is this. What happens if the nurse is not there and there is someone that is have been trained in CPR and all this? And can they administer help to the person?
Yes, sir. They can. However, if the nurse is not there and we're administering CPR, that's an automatic EMS call.
Okay.
We also go over training at the beginning of the year with safe schools, but we also do an in-person training. We show the staff members AED. We go over stop the bleed training for all staff as well.
Ms. Boatright?
Yeah, that's similar to what I was wondering because I know the nurses are spread really thin right now. So I don't know if that requires an update to protocol because I know there's got to be someone there that knows CPR, but it sounds like that's part of the plan. The other question I had is a change that was made that an RN must be available on call by telecommunications, which seemed kind of like an odd way of putting it. Does each school get to pick how that works, or why wouldn't it just be on call? Because it says fax or pager.
Yeah, that's old. Obviously, it's a phone call.
Okay.
Yeah. Nobody has a pager. I mean, we don't have pagers, so no, it's by a phone call.
I'm sending you a fax. We're in distress.
Let's take that out, Joe. Let's take that out.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well, and just by telecommunications was such, a fancy term. Okay, that's it. Go ahead.
Any other questions regarding this AR? Ms.
Yes, I do have a question. My
Yes,
question, so basically, to break this down, basically there's a team, and these are a team of people, they always know who they are, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so everyone on the team has a designated job, was what it seemed like. Did that team have a name? Did that team have a name or?
No, it's just the emergency response team.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Keep up the good work. We definitely appreciate y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Andrew and Ms. Stoddard, for all you do.
Absolutely. Okay, any other questions? Wendy, do you want a motion for this to go to the full board, or you're just going to present it to the full board?
We'll present it to the full board.
Yeah, I don't think you need a motion because you don't need
We'll
our.
present it for information.
Yeah.
But we appreciate your input. It always helps. To make things
Absolutely.
better. Thank you.
And I would just like to echo the comments. Thank you for all you do. And Denise, thank you, and your entire team and everybody involved. We couldn't have gotten through this year without you guys. So appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing it, Ms. Cartledge. All right. The next thing on our agenda is a construction update. So, Mr. Corbin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Robin, if you'll be so kind and pull open our construction update for June 9th. While
It's
that's
loading.
coming up. While that's loading, I will share with everybody that the report includes updates for 23 referendum projects, as well as updates for 33 8% capital projects. The report does have 5 projects with yellow traffic lights that I will share details with as we go through it. But now that Robin has the report loaded, to be so kind to advance to slide number 3, Robin. That will be for Beaufort Elementary. Our renovations continue to make excellent progress. There's some photos there on that page, or slide 3. And if you go to slide 4, Robin, it'll show some of the milestones that we have mapped out there. Most important one that I want to point out is we have already locked in our Office of School Facilities OSF inspections for the date of July 30th as well as August 3rd. But all in all, excellent progress being made on Beaufort Elementary. We'll move on to slide number.
Mr. Corbin, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you just explain the second to last bullet? What is the contractor coordination issue?
We have part of our scope is to replace the existing cooling tower out there.
Okay.
The structural steel that had to be modified that we reported on recently. As we worked through those details, we realized it then created a conflict with the condenser water piping. Once that conflict was identified, we needed to resolve that. We've done the engineering drawings, and with us now being so close to the end of the year, it's just wisest to facilitate the changing out of that to take place during the summer break. So that's what we're doing. Does that answer your question? Do you need more detail?
I don't know that more detail would
Clear it up.
clear it up at all, seriously, but you're good with this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, basically it was a coordination issue.
Right.
That they found once installing, and they're having to correct it.
And the structural engineer is reviewing it and suggesting the correction. And so is the mechanical engineer. So they're coordinating to make sure those work out.
So I guess my basic question is what do you mean, when you say coordination issue, is it the materials don't work together, or was it just the people didn't plan it together?
The structural design of the new tower changed from the existing, and when those modifications were drawn, it was coordinated. But during the installation of the new support steel, field condition was exposed that required a modification. That modification of the steel had a ripple effect that then took us into a new coordination challenge with the piping that goes to and from the cooling tower. So that just took a little bit, like Robert was saying, coordination between the structural engineer, coordination between our mechanical engineer, coming up with a solution. And then once we had that solution identified, we looked at the schedule and said, we can make it through the end of the year with the existing equipment. Let's just do it over the summer break when timing won't be a concern.
Okay, so this doesn't impact the budget or the timeline. Okay, all right, thank you.
You bet. Moving on to the slide 5 for Robert Small's International Academy. We have received 100% construction documents. Those are being reviewed. J.E. Dunn is actively doing cost takeoffs on that, as well as getting the bid packages out to the community. We have a goal to assemble the guaranteed maximum price amendment for putting that scope fully under contract with a guaranteed maximum price. And if everything goes as scheduled, we should be bringing that information to the board July 13th for review and approval by the board. That will then allow us to move that project into the construction phase.
Do we have a meeting the 13th? Isn't July the 1 month that we have one meeting?
There is 1 month. I believe that is the date.
Got it. Okay, it might be.
I know that the
July
date
13th.
changed on this, and I've got that updated too.
Okay, great.
I have a question.
Moving on. Yes.
Yes?
Do you want me, Trish, do you prefer me just to like jump in or raise my hand? I don't want to breach protocol here.
You know what? If you keep your hand up, Molly's helping me keep an eye on the hand. So that probably would be, so we don't talk over each other.
Sounds good.
So please, go ahead, Mr. Street.
Yeah, when you say the GMP proposal will include track resurfacing, that's part of phase 2, right?
Correct. That work would actually not commence until I think it's early 2022 is when we have that work scheduled. 2023, my bad.
Yeah.
Does that include the other aspects of phase 2, or are you just pulling out the track resurfacing out of phase 2 and combining it with this GMP?
It's really all inclusive of both the phase 2 of the athletics. What we've got to do is focus first on the replacement school, getting it stood up, and then we can talk about the demolition and the site restoration and athletics that would follow that coming spring.
But the GMP we'll get on July 13th will include both phase 1 and phase 2 scope of work.
That is the goal.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Do we typically just join up phases like that, or is it better to keep them separate? Does it not matter?
Really has no bearing on it. I actually would prefer that with how material prices have been on the move, I feel comfortable locking it all in.
Yeah,
I just wondered if that was the norm or if it was sort of one-off.
I was going to say the only contradiction to that, sometimes we'll release phase 1 stuff early to get it ordered or out or completed first while we're working on the rest, but that's not the case here. And this is, we're going to lock in the entire project, so when that GMP is issued, you'll know the entire project. I mean, should not be any issues once that's locked in.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Moving on to slide 6, the update at Battery Creek High School. With the board's approval, May 18th for the guaranteed maximum price amendment number 2 at that campus, it has now allowed us to commence activities related to demolition and the construction phase. Demolition has commenced. We are still looking to coordinate the groundbreaking on that campus, and just as soon as we can have a date and time, that information will be shared with all board members as well as with the clock. And then tonight, you will also see discussions related to Jumper Carter C's amendment. I won't tie it up right now since we've got it already as an agenda item, and we'll just move on.
Okay.
Moving on to slide number 8, pointing out progress that's happening at Hilton Head Island School for Creative Arts. This project, as well as the one on the next slide, Beaufort Elementary, you recall for the last 2 board meetings or 2 briefings, we've alerted the operation committee and the board that we're continuing conversations. We came close to wrapping them up last month, but we did not do that, so they're still being reported as yellow. Just as soon as the project manager and myself have all those details ironed out, you'll get the full brief. Moving along to slide 11, Hilton Head Island Middle School. We're receiving the initial set of design documents. Those are referred to as schematic design. We prefer to see a schematic design to make sure that the scope is heading in the correct direction before they invest a lot of their resource time to design the project into the construction phase. Those are being reviewed, and they're also being estimated by Thompson Turner Construction. This is our opportunity to make sure that the scope and the budgets are aligning as we move the work forward. And at Hilton Head Island, I'll refresh everyone's memory. Our intent, if you recall, at Beaufort Elementary, we brought in a 6th classroom, mobile classroom for some swing space that allows us to move students into a safe space while we go and renovate areas. We are bringing that onto the campus here at Hilton Head Island. And what we're looking to do is facilitate that move so that that occurs in the September fall timeframe of this year.
And so that was a question I had, why not do that during the summer so that it would be available when school starts?
We're still using it through summer school, and they're not quite ready yet to vacate that.
So when's the earliest that you expect Hilton Head Island Middle School to start using it?
They'll probably be in the Christmas,
Okay.
about the Christmas
They don't
time.
need it till then?
Yeah.
Got it.
Right. Yeah, I probably think that it may even be first of next year.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Timing wise,
Sweet.
with the award of their GMP and commencing construction activities, that would kick that off.
Okay. All right. Mrs. Boatright?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay? Feedback on my
Yes.
end. Okay. So they're going to basically use those 6 mobiles because you're going to take kids out of the building, put them in the mobiles while you're demolishing or changing or doing construction in the building itself. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. We'll use
Okay.
those spaces for, we call them swing space. The swing space allows the children to vacate the primary building into a mobile classroom. Now we go in, take over those 6 spaces inside, which is a good amount of area to take over, do the renovations, bring those children back into their renovated space, take the next group, send them out to the mobiles, and everyone systematically will go through. And that's how we get through a renovation on an existing campus that's occupied.
And it sounds like you're looking at using that starting the 2nd semester, right? Like Christmas
Right.
time, January. Okay. Is there coordination with either the school or instructional services about which classrooms are going to get swung or swinging
Yes.
out? Okay,
Yes, the principal is completely involved in that.
perfect.
Right. And this is what they did at Beaufort L. And I spoke with the principal, and she said that the conversation was seamless and it just worked beautifully. So I anticipate the same.
I do
Yeah.
too. We have done this multiple times successfully, and it plays very well.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, trying to figure out how this all works.
I guess if we go to slide 14, quick little updates for Bluffton High School. We have HVAC improvements scheduled for that campus. The units are scheduled to arrive first week of July, and they'll be installed over summer break. As soon as our graduation ceremonies are over on that campus this month, we'll start the athletic turf field. And then interior painting at Bluffton High School. Scheduled to start as soon as students release at the end of June, and that's going to be completed during spring break as well.
Summer break.
I said summer. I said summer in my head. I spoke it. Yeah, my apologies. Beaufort Elementary. If we go to slide 16, this is one that has a yellow traffic light. This is once again associated with that fire that took place at Play World. We are so close in getting confirmation of what that delivery date looks like, but as of this meeting time, I don't have it. So it's still a yellow traffic light, but we believe that we'll stick with this vendor, and what he's shared so far on the others that he's been able to analyze, they have not been a large impact, and those updates are being shared with the principal and their administrative team, so they're in tune. They're just excited to receive the new playground equipment and those improvements. And if we're talking a change of 3 to 6 weeks time frame, most of them are in the 4-week time frame, so that's not too out of the normal, especially considering they had a factory fire.
So is there a plan B?
There is a plan B. We do have another vendor that we could turn to. We have placed the equipment order, but that's what's the delay is. It hasn't coming out in the pipeline yet.
Right.
We do have a second that we could go to, and just as soon as we know what we're talking about, because we hear back from Play World that factory is going to impact this, and it's not going to be a reasonable time. We won't hesitate. We'll just shut down that purchase order request and move to contestant number 2 and get a proposal and get that moving in that fashion.
So what's your reasonable time? 4 weeks? Is that what you were just alluding to?
I'd like to think that we would have this update before we meet again in a month.
Great. Okay. So, but you would give them maybe 4 to 6 weeks to.
Yeah, because I think that as long as we can be informed that the order's placed, you're in the hopper, you're going to be receiving a shipment in 3-4 weeks. We couldn't probably change courses and get it any quicker.
Absolutely.
But if they come back with something that's night and day different, they say it's a 12-week.
Right.
I'm pretty confident we could go to the second vendor and improve.
Okay. Other questions?
Moving on then to slides 19 and 20 for
Did we go back to 17 then? Beaufort
sure.
Middle School?
17? Sure.
Yes, the district maintenance to refurbish the gym floor. Can you say a little bit about that? That was just one of the schools that had the mercury vapors. So can you talk about that?
Well, so it's got a wood floor over that old floor. So this is just our standard buffing, well, more than sand and coat. So it really doesn't have an impact on it.
So it's not, by doing that, it's not.
There's finish layers up on top, and a routine maintenance on a gym floor involves stripping that down, doing a sanding, and then putting the stripes back, and then putting finish coats on top. Where the concern lies is up underneath. We're not disturbing that area.
We built the current gym floor is on top of the old floor. So it's got it's sleepers and it's completely separate. So we're not getting anywhere near that old floor.
And so do you continue to monitor the air quality?
Yes, we actually need, probably need to go out and have that tested. It's about every 6 months.
Because it increases during the warm weather, correct? It needs to stay cool in there to keep the vapors down.
And they did have a problem with the air conditioning unit last week, and so we told them not to use the gym.
Okay. But they're on the list to get that HVAC.
Right. That's next summer. That's what we got to get to, or sometime next year. Yes, they are.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Corbin.
Sure.
I apologize.
Thanks for the extra question. I tried to pick out the highlights from these slides, and of course, if there is one that's of question, please do what you did, and we'll be glad to do our best to answer it.
Okay.
I guess we're going to move on to slides 19 and 20 for Beaufort High School. Construction of the new addition associated with the wrestling and weight rooms commenced. We also will be doing the gym bleachers. Those are going to be scheduled to be replaced in August. The VPAC seating replacement being coordinated to occur in October. We've got 8% capital work going on associated with corridor painting that will happen during summer break. And the TTC amendment number 19, that was for more than $1 million. That was approved by the board. on June 1st. So we're actively looking at submittals and equipment lead times so that we can coordinate when that HVAC work can take place.
Okay.
Moving on to slide 22 for St. Helena Elementary. This one has a yellow traffic light once again for the playground. We are evaluating the proposal and meeting with the principal this month early to review the scope and the proposal amount that we've received. The proposal on that did go over our budgeted funds, so we're looking at it a little closer to see what modifications, if any, we would like to make. If none are made, we would move forward likely with a recommendation to use some of the program level contingency to cover those additional costs. But this is also a proposal that came in from the vendor Play World that had that same factory fire. They are still needing to get back to us on the impact on this campus. Same thing would apply here. If we learn that the duration that it would take them to deliver it is not reasonable, we'll just move to the other vendor and seek a proposal in that direction.
Mr. Smith?
So my question would be, did we not know of did we not know that the cost of this project before we took this project on? Was this project not out for bid?
The project budget was established at a pre-design phase. We've talked about some of the budgeting and the level of detail that you have. So you have to do some rough order cost magnitude estimates and budget. That's what happened in this case here as we put pen to paper and started to design out the various pieces. Once we had that price, that's when we saw that we were looking at some costs that were slightly above the budget. It's, I don't have the figure with me, but I'm recalling that it was less than $50,000 that it had gone above the budget. But like I said, we're going through it. We're meeting with the principal, making sure that they help us with any decisions that we would like to make to possibly reduce the cost. And once we get it boiled down to what we can bring forward as a recommendation, then that's what we will do.
And also, can you tell me which playground we're talking about? Because you have the early learning center and also you have Highland Elementary School. So which playground are we talking about?
You could do that to me. I do not know. Do you know?
It's the elementary school out in front. I believe the kindergarten playground.
Is that the kindergarten playground out front, Mr. Smith? Is that where it's located?
I'm not sure. I know we were doing the at one point in time we were doing the early learning center. So I just remember to make sure that this is not the early learning playground that we're doing.
No, this is not. This is the elementary school.
Yeah, I know that's not the percussion because that one's in pretty good shape.
Okay. Well, actually, that one was just redone as well. Last time I believe that one was redone. Okay. Right. Thank you. Also, in terms of, since we're on St. Helena, is St. Helena gym not in this project?
St. Helena gym.
The St. Helena gym project? What
Yes,
would
sir.
you like to know?
Yes, sir. I'd like an update on that.
We're continuing to work on that scope. Actually, we're hoping that we would have something available at the next board meeting. So we're getting we just have some issues we're working through with the contractor to make sure they're within scope, within the budget.
Well, I'm real concerned about that because I thought we would have that when the kids get out, meaning that project would possibly take a while or something, that we would have that up and running and that we would have that before us.
So we always knew we would not have it available for the start of school. We were looking about October timeframe.
Right.
That is still doable. As we finalize these negotiations, we'll get a revised schedule. So if there's any change to that schedule, we'll let you know. So,
Sounds good. Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, my last question is, also, can we get a scope of exactly what is going on with that project? Something in writing so that we can check into the gym. Would not reach out, just keep I understand the clarity of exactly what is going on with that.
Yes, sir. So when we bring you that amendment, it'll have a complete detail of everything included with that. So,
Right, well, I'm asking like as soon as possible. Can I understand exactly what the scope is of that project and what that project consists of? Is what I'm asking for, an update on that. That's what I'm asking for. I understand we're going to do it, but
all work going on the campus or just the gym?
Just the gym.
Gym scope?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, what we have is available online. As we're finalized, we're in conversations with the contractor and the architect back and forth, working the project to get it in budget so we can bring it forward to the board. So we're in the middle of that right now. So if it's okay, I will finalize that and bring that to the board for approval. That's our standard procedure. Bringing something mid kind of contract negotiation is not typical. If that makes sense.
Well, actually, what I'm asking for is to have. I'm asking to have something that tells me exactly what we're asking for and what will be going on in that building, like as in doors, bathroom. I'm actually for a low detail to understand exactly what that contract will consist of.
If I can, I'll be glad to give you that right now. If that's acceptable.
I actually, if you would, so we can move on. Could you give that to me in writing? And if you would email that to me, please, I would definitely appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's it.
And you said that if we go online, you can
We just have
find.
the summation of the project for each school. So it would have a summation of.
It's a higher level than what I think Mr. Smith is requesting, but as Robert said, it's easy for me to go back after this meeting, get with the project manager, let us get that granularity of the scope that is being looked at for the gym, and then I'll review it with Robert, and then we'll get it to Robin for distribution.
I think we have some contractor.
Yeah, we've got that level of detail in there, and let us get that back to you.
Okay.
So we'll submit that to the entire board, correct?
Yes, please. Mr. Smith, does that sound right to you?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Good.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving on to slide 24. That's another one, and I think it's our last one with the yellow light. Once again, it's associated with the playground and the impact. It's for Shanklin Elementary School. If we move on to slide 26, show off some of the work that's nearing completion at Well Branch Elementary. The photos there will show the new playground, the shade structure, as well as that soccer field. That work has really turned out quite impressive. Moving along to slide 27, which is the middle school at Well Branch. You'll see in that photo on the next slide, 27, the work that's been knocked out recently for the gym. Not only has the gym floor been completed with the new logo striping and refinishing in the background there, you also will see the new bleachers. That has changed the appearance of that middle school gym and reset it to a really nice facility.
Great. Mr. Smith, do you still have a question? Your hand is up. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
Okay. Moving along to slide 35. I realized this afternoon that we had not shared the updated 2019 referendum project contingency log. I have returned that in, and I believe that has now been loaded to board docs. The point I'll point out, though, is we had no use of the program level referendum contingency last month. So that's excellent news. We didn't use $1 of it. that information and report has been loaded so that if you wanted to go back and look at any of the details of how those contingency funds have been used to date, you have that available now.
Can we just go back to page 34, the slide 34,
Yes.
and project closeouts?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
These
so
projects,
all the quarter one, which would have been March, right?
Yes,
Quarter
ma'am.
one, all the quarter ones, which would have been, again, in March.
Been
These are
in
all yellow.
the reason why they're yellow is we had established target dates to have them completed, as you said, Q1
Right.
2021. We're no longer in that quarter, so we have turned them yellow to draw attention to them.
Right.
And you'll see on the comments, I know they're hard to read for those that are participating remotely, but if you've got a copy open in front of you or a hard copy as well, these comments are being updated. Basically, for those that have yellow lights, they can be summarized that those have progressed to the point where the designer of record, the project manager, we've seen the documents, both the architect of record and the PM have agreed that we have received the required closeout documentation, and we're basically at the final step where we are requesting the final change order to reconcile any allowances that may have been in the GMP, reconciling any use of construction contingency that lies inside the GMP, so that we can finalize the final contract amount, request the final pay app, and then pay. We are very close for those ones that are lit up by the yellow light. But it's just, I didn't want to reset target dates. I think it's more important to share what we had communicated, be transparent, acknowledge that we're behind on what we had set as a goal. We talk about this a couple different times a week. Robert knows because I bring it up to the PMs. And at my PM meeting tomorrow is on the agenda as well. And we are looking at not just the referendums, but we're also looking at the 8%. So they're just as important to close out. And we do have, I believe, a good portion of 8% projects that I'm getting input back on from the PMs that are in that same condition, that they're either ready to close right now or one step away.
Probably the only exception to that is River Ridge.
That's because of the
Waiting on a ruling from OSF, their next OSF meeting on requirements for pump out. If you heard us talk about what's kind of derailed us is some things they requested done on a little fire pump house out there.
Yeah.
And the architects made some requests. There's a meeting coming up where OSF would make a ruling. Once they make a ruling, we'll have to then implement what we're going to, the fix.
Right.
So River Ridge is kind of an outlier. That's what
it is, but that detail that Robert just shared has been summarized and put in your comments so that you can see that, hey, that's what's going on there. And we believe that the proposed solution out there is a economically responsible one. It's not too high of a cost, and it's not rip the whole roof off and let's put something back in place. It's a happy middle ground. And from conversations the designers had with OSF, we believe that this should be accepted.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what's your expectation that the quarter two, which is in about 23 days, ends, right? The end of June. So what's your expectation that quarter two, 2021 closeouts will happen? I mean, other than the playgrounds, I understand.
Yeah, there's some in there that you'll see that we've got TBDs down for.
Right.
And that's just because of conversations we've had with the construction manager, the contractor on the job. We've given him the option in some places to say, do you want to close this out now, or do you just want to wait and close it out? Because it is going to hold up a little bit of your retainage. Most of them have said, for the ones that have indicated that in the comments, I'm fine with waiting. So that was their choice to push those forward at a later pace, but deliver on. So it's disappointing when we miss that. They know I'm disappointed in it. So my fingers are crossed that I can come back next month and show you that in the actual column, the actual CO date, that you'll have data added there and the lights go away for those projects.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, I guess moving along then to slide 37, share some good news associated with our cash flow projection versus actual for the expenditure forecast for May this year. We had forecast spending $4 million. Our actual expenditures for May were $4.43 million. This is the first time since the referendum commenced where our actual expenditures actually exceeded the forecast figure by a slight amount. But all in all, our forecast is working quite well. Our actuals are right in where we would like to see them. For the total period through the end of May, our cumulative total forecast was 63.57 million. And our actuals were 60.25 million. So that's right where you want to find your actuals tracking against your forecast. You know, they flip and they get too far ahead. That can be concerning, but we don't have those concerns right now. I think it's modeling quite well, and pleased with the fact that, as I shared last year, that we were going to turn the corner by early this year. We did turn it by early this year, and we're tracking consistently now. Because I really view this as another yardstick that will measure our overall progress with the referendum. And right now it's showing that it's moving just like it needs to move.
Okay.
And this will allow us also to finish on schedule by December of 2023.
Ingrid?
Yeah, this is just for my own clarification. When you talk about being under what you plan to spend and what you actually spent, that's not a factor with the fact that Play World had a fire, right? And we just haven't spent that money yet. That's a different type of accounting, right?
It would be minor, because at this point in time, those projects that have been impacted by the fire, they would not have had their playgrounds installed. And as a reminder to everybody that's listening, we don't pay for work in advance. It has to be put in place, and then we make payment. So those playgrounds that we're speaking of that were hung up in that Play World factory fire, those were scheduled to be, more invoiced in the July timeframe, early August, after the playgrounds have been installed.
If I kind of jump in, this chart, as Rob was saying, is more your 30,000 foot level. Just how are we doing overall? Are we ahead, behind, and how far behind? And so, when you're talking about individual projects, I think that's getting too granular for this chart, unless it's got some kind of major financial hit. What this is more telling us is we're tracking close to where we need to be. Just big picture, not going, you look at each individual budget to see more how each individual project is tracking.
So okay, go ahead, Ingrid, I'm sorry.
So make sure that we're looking at slide 37. That's the chart we're talking about, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the expectation then by the end of this calendar year is your cumulative totals are showing a much greater leap with each month.
Oh, it will, because as you can tell,
I was going to say.
you'll see the work over the course of the referendum sort of follow a bell curve. We'll get busier and busier, and that's where we are. We're still climbing. We'll finally hit a crescendo, and then we'll slide back down the backside where at the very end we'll be dealing with the final project closeout, and there's just a little bit when we're done.
Excellent. So again, to this chart, just to make sure I understand it, if you looked at Robert Smalls International Academy and you carried it over to the last column, it says 34%. So you're anticipating that by the end of December, you will have expended 34% of the total funds that are attributable to Robert Smalls.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you look where we are, take Robert Smalls as an example. You're seeing $500,000, small amounts of money from May, June, and you're starting to see it push up a little more in July, August, holding that November, October, December, getting even higher in a monthly expenditure. That's what you expect. So what those early are all the design, pre-construction, get ready. Then you're starting construction, and then you ramp up. Even construction projects will really ramp up. So you're talking about that building having to be constructed in, for the most part, 18 months from now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're you're,
Have to be quick.
yeah, and part of it, you're gonna see the steel start coming. Once you start seeing the steel come in, the roof come on, then things really start clicking. And
you never go from $0 of construction and jump to 3 million. You go systematically where the first month may be $1 million, the next month is 2, then you get to 3 million, and you finally start to find that threshold of how much work can be put in place on a monthly basis, and that's what comes back to drive the overall term of the construction duration of, like Robert said, roughly 18 months.
although I'm gonna prep you ahead of time because I know they're gonna spend a lot next month. They're buying a lot of stuff now, pre-ordering.
Yeah.
So even though you said ramp up, you're gonna see a big bill on Road Smalls, I think, for June.
Depends on the steel delivery.
Because
Yeah.
they're ordering a lot of stuff for, just because prices are so, they want to lock in.
And by locking in that steel at that campus, we saved some significant additional costs over the past, 30 days or more. I mean,
That's good because it's a tight
but we
budget
are starting to see some material costs already hit the peak and start to come back down. We'd like to see that trend continue.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I would like to go back to the point of the Disney World that's caught on fire.
Playworld.
Playworld, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me, Playworld, and just so that people who may be listening and not may understand what does Playworld have to do with the district, can y'all explain that?
Yes, Playworld is one of 2 vendors that have supported playground projects for the district. The district has capitalized on term agreements that Playworld, as well as one other vendor, has with other school districts here in the state. Use of those type of agreements are called piggyback agreements, where if they'll honor the same type of pricing agreement that was negotiated and done in a competitive nature with another district, we can use it here. But that's what we've got is a vendor like that has been brought in, and it's specific to only playground equipment. And the factory was limited, and the fire was limited to one of their assembly lines, and it was the one that puts the coating on the steel materials. It didn't affect the whole plant, but it depends so much on what type of equipment are you ordering? Does it require a lot of coating? Where was your order overall when the factory fire took place? And on some of our projects, we've heard minimal impact, like just 2 weeks is all, and that's great news. But on others, it's been difficult to get a commitment. We've heard some initial conversations that indicated to us, oh, it shouldn't be too bad, but we've yet to receive something that we can sort of hang our hat on. And because of that, until we have that level of detail, I want you to be aware of it, and that's why the yellow flag's there.
Got you. Also, another question I have is when it comes to some of the stuff that we're ordering. So with this taking place, then I'm concerned that the prices on some of the stuff may go up, and that may put us in another bracket. The cost of it. Well, I shouldn't say the bracket. I just said that the price of some of the stuff is going to go up. So that's a concern. Is that accurate or is it not? For clarification.
Well, in the case of the Playworld, if that's what you're in reference to, we're already locked in on prices there. But your point, prices are going up, is a very good one, and we're continuing to watch that and monitor construction prices and make sure we're able to stay within our project budgets and get ahead of it where we can.
Right, and that's what I'm warning too as well. So basically, all the prices that we have going on, we are locked in. It's correct that we are locked in on all the prices. So some of that.
It's been written, you're locked in on the price. Any amendment still to be written has not been locked in.
But we get progress estimates throughout the design period of a project. So we're getting some updates, and we know that it's either in budget or maybe being a little tight or possibly even exceeding it. The sooner you realize that, it gives you the opportunity to sit down with stakeholders, determine if there is any modifications to the scope or the selection of the materials that could help with the budget side of it. But that's what we do on each and every one of our projects. And when we have a concern with a budget, we do sit down with the end user and find out, is there anything that we can do a little differently, but still deliver on the pieces and parts that the school's looking for? Because our goal is always to deliver on the scope that they were seeking to receive. And as I said, for these playgrounds here, we think that we can get these back within a reasonable budget. If we need to use any contingency, I don't foresee it being a significant amount. It would be just a minor, smaller portion.
Okay, Ms. Boatright?
Thank you. So this is sort of because I'm still new and figuring this out, but it's also, I've been looking at some of this stuff for a while now, and this table's not super clear to me. What does summer referendum mean? Is that just sort of everything that's not specifically identified? Because it has all these schools listed out, then there's 108.25 million in the summer referendum.
So I can't, your safety, security, technology projects that are going on at individual schools. So you'll see above are the big projects: River Ridge, May River, Beaufort L, Robert Smalls, Battery Creek, Hilton Head Middle, and Hilton Head High. Pretty much everything else, Beaufort, right choices, safety entry, redoing the technology at, you name it, school. That will all fall under what we're calling summer referendum projects.
Yeah, and the reason why we're calling them summer is that a good portion of that work can be knocked out during the summer break. And that would be associated with year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 projects. But like Robert said, if you try to slice the overall funding for the referendum, 344 million, you have your big projects, those are the ones that are listed clearly, and everything else just falls into that summer referendum category.
Well, because sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ms. Boatright.
Beaufort High is a pretty big program, but HHIHS design at 4 million is pulled out. So I don't know what the standard is to getting special treatment in the chart.
Yeah, the Beaufort High did not. Yeah, the Beaufort High is a big project. There's a lot of large athletics at all the high schools. Those are all part of that summer. And I was just going to add that you'll notice that there's money in that category throughout the year. That was one of the things early on the board was very clear about, is that we wanted projects to go on between the summer and not just to be summer work. So
Right, so those funds would not only cover design that would be going on in those months, but if we also were able to coordinate and get in there and do a portion of HVAC work or whatever the scope may be, we would have those opportunities as well.
I think the other thing, sorry.
No, I think.
Hate Zoom.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think summer referendum, the other thing that's confusing is it starts to mix in, and I have some concerns about this, the summer work, which is traditionally the 8% projects, and referendum. And so if you call it summer referendum, I think that creates some confusion. Because when I first look at it, I had to think about, there's no way it's, 108 million, but it does create some, I guess, interoperability issues on the terminology. So I just think, I don't know why we can't break it out by school so that everyone can look and see what's going on at each person's school, at each individual school.
So yes, and that is the sheets that Louis gives us that we have quarterly. So that's what I was saying. This is more the 30,000 foot view. This is the way up high view. If you go down, we have the sheets that break down by school, by individual type of project. And that's more of a granular level, and those are available, and that's part of the quarterly financial report. And that's also some of the information that we give to the clock, and we can provide that here. It's available. That's not the purpose of this chart right here. If that makes sense.
Because like Robert says, if you're interested in seeing the actual encumbrance or expenditure or remaining budget each month, that report that Robert's referencing is prepared and distributed. So you could go into Beaufort High and see exactly what movement took place from which of the funding categories: safety, security, technology, infrastructure, athletics, those buckets that were, created for funding. All of that has that level of detail. And like Robert said, this is more just that higher level. What did we forecast? How we're doing? And I will share for those that are listening, this work that we're dovetailing in the summers from the referendum, we're capitalizing on doing that work in any case that we can with that 8% work, because it's actually giving the district the best value. If I've got a contractor out there doing, management oversight, and I'm paying for the cost of a superintendent for the summer months, his cost is the same whether he's watching the referendum work or the referendum work and the 8%. So you get some value added services and cost is lower.
Okay.
And all that makes good sense. I think there's two things. I keep hearing feedback. One is, I think if you're going to provide a 30-foot view, to me, it's a little concerning, but just because we pulled out 8 projects and gave them sort of special treatment and then lumped everything else. So either lump them all in or pull them all out, because it concerns me what gets decided that gets special, its own line, and what gets kind of lumped together, because it can create, some concern. And then as far as the 8%, I think it's great that we do them together, but I think from an accounting standpoint and an amendment standpoint and a contingency standpoint, we need to make sure that it's clear what money's being spent. What part of the project is 8% and what part of the project goes to referendum. So I think it's great they're done together, but I think it's important. I think we've kind of merged them a little bit more than I was seeing 6 months ago when I started on the board. It seems like there's more overlap from here's our amendment, here's our construction update. And it just makes it harder for me to figure out what's going on.
Well, I think what you're pointing out is you want to see the detail, and we did not provide that. And I think what you're asking for is the detail sheets of the individual projects, and we can easily provide it. So
I've got them, because they're on the website. BeaufortSchools.net has them. I'm not concerned about it. I just think if we're going to lump everything, if we're going to lump 2/3 of the projects under summer referendum and put the other third out, what's the criteria, or why are we doing it? If you know what I mean, it seems inconsistent to me, but I'll just leave it at that. It's not a big issue for me. It's just kind of a feedback thing from a public perspective.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Boatwright. Mr. Smith, do you have another question?
Actually, I was going to say I do agree with Ms. Boatwright. Basically, I get what she's saying. Basically, what's the process? And I hear what he's saying, how they do it, but I agree with Ms. Boatwright. I do think that they should be lumped together as one and not in different various places, because that does brings a lot of concern to the public, and that could stop the public asking about transparency. So I feel that if we have one pretty much straight report, then that gives out basically a host of the information all the information on it. Then I think that therefore there will be no way you can get confused on that. So I definitely agree with Ms. Boatwright. I feel the same way about that.
On the topic of the cash flow, I will share that this is a format that has gone to the clock Citizen-led Oversight Committee on a monthly basis. They're familiar with it. I guess, hearing this input, perhaps we need to share that input with our clock members to see if they too would benefit from just collapsing it or expanding it. I know that the other report that you heard Robert mention, I refer to it as our 519 report. It's monthly. It has the separation for each and every one of the referendum projects, so it's real clear. They get that report as well. That could either be included with this for those that seek a lower level detail than this 30-foot. We're open and receptive to, how this committee and the board would prefer to see the data.
So I've listened to several of the clock meetings, and I know that they pour over that 519 report. And Mr. Ray Warco, thank you. And Mr. Ray Warco, I think specifically during one meeting a few months ago, asked for some additional information that was provided, and he felt that it was the good information. So my point to that, Ms. Boatwright, is as in other places in this PowerPoint, if there was a link to that 519 report, that's public. That's yeah.
It's
If
just
there was
like the contingency log that I do as an attachment. Going forward, I can put the 519 in here.
Yeah, we just need to attach it.
Let's do that
okay
for next month and see how it goes.
All right, Ms. Boatwright, Mr. Smith.
Basically, I was going to say, I hear what you're saying, but you know, I hear y'all talking about the clock. But all due respect, we're elected to watch over the money and to watch over what goes on. And so I understand that the clock is doing a good job as well. And I respect Mr. Corbett what they're doing, but I think it comes down to as well as that we would have it in, and we would like to have it in the sense to where we can understand it and where we can correlate things with each other, and it brings a clear level of transparency as well. And that's what I want. That to me that's what I believe that should happen.
Right. So,
I just leave it at that.
We were probably speaking over each other and you did not hear me, but that 519 report will give us that more level of detail, and they are going to include that in the next construction update. Okay?
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions? Mr. Corbin, do you have anything else to share with us?
Last item was our community outreach, real briefly. Slide 39, Robin. We are looking to coordinate a community review meeting for Robert Smalls International Academy to be held in July. Main purpose of that is to share, what's forthcoming, but the timing of it, we want to make sure that I've brought the board a GMP amendment first that can be awarded. I don't want to go to the community and show them something that, heaven forbid, we end up finding difficulty in funding.
Okay.
It just works best like this in that order. And that's basically what we've done at Battery Creek High School, which is the other point on that slide. The groundbreaking, now that we've got it awarded, we've done these outreaches already with Battery Creek High School, but the coordination of the groundbreaking, it looks like it'll happen in late June or July.
Okay.
And just as soon as we have that locked in, those dates will be distributed to all the board members as well as the clock members so that everybody can be made aware of exactly when they'll take place.
Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate your report. I know that there are a lot of questions this month and some suggestions, and I thank you for your attention to them. All right. That ends that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. All right. Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is the review of A1A contract amendment for Battery Creek High School architect.
Yes. And that's AIA.
Thank you.
For the.
I misread it. It was written.
It looked like a
correctly.
one, doesn't it?
It was written, yes. Thank
Yeah,
you.
but Robert, if you want me to take
If
this.
you can start, I got
Sure, I saw that you got tied up. I'm jumping right in. Keep it moving for everybody. The original architect's agreement is based off of a fixed fee percentage that is calculated off of the cost of the work. When we began that work, we put in a estimate of what that cost of the work would be. And now that we've approved the guaranteed maximum price, that guaranteed maximum price, in argument's sake, has reset the cost of the work. So what you'll see is an amendment that's been prepared, and the way that we prepared it was probably the more conservative method. One way could have been to prepare it where we were just going to do the adjustment between what the original cost of the work was estimated at and the actual GMP, then just apply their percentage against it. That wouldn't have required board approval. But because we want to be transparent and share this information, we wanted to bring it first to the operation committee, let this committee ask any questions, but we will then be bringing it to the second meeting in June, so this board as a whole could act on this. But it's just, basically aligning with the original AIA agreement and the contract terms. The fee is the percentage that was negotiated before they commence services. And it's just a mathematical equation between what changed in the cost of the work.
Mhm. Yeah.
So there's questions, we'll do our best.
Mr. Smith?
Oh, no, I don't have a question. Let me put my hand out. Thank you. I apologize.
Okay. Ms. Boatright? Looks like you're muted, Ms. Boatright.
Thank you. Ugh, I am not good on Zoom at all. I don't know where to look either. I'm just staring at a screen. So I tried to pull up the Battery Creek amendment, but I don't have it because it was in executive session. So did we know that when, and I'm sorry, we've done so many amendments. On July 6th, do we know why it went up from 46 million to 49 million? Was that in the amendment? On the GMP?
Sure. So the 46 million, the original one that was done in 2020 was the estimated budget for the project. We had not contractor yet, had not started bidding yet. So that was an estimated cost to get the architect started.
And that contract did go to the board for approval with that detail in.
With it as an estimate.
Correct.
Correct.
So now we have the final GMP, we actually have the final cost. And so now we're making the contract right with what the actual cost of the work was, because the contract was based on the percentage of the cost of the work.
Okay. So, and this is one thing, and I wanted to bring this up with the contingency. One thing I'm pulling my hair out as, we're starting to wait is the date issue, right? Because there's FY 2022, which is the same thing as Q1 203, which, all these different things. So a contract was agreed and finalized on July 6th. Under key points, it says the board approved a contract with JCS based on an estimate on May 19th. So is that when did the board actually get this? Was it, we got it May 19th and it went back to MBCon and they finalized on July 6th?
Yeah, I think you're getting a little confused. Let me see if I can help you.
It's the 2 different years.
It's the year.
Look at the years.
The contract with JCS, Joker Carter Seas, that's the design. That was May 19th, 2020. What we did was we brought in on May 18th of this year, the amendment to construct the project, and that was with MBCon. So now that we've got a true cost of the work established as of May 18th of this year at 49.5 million and change, we then go back and say, well, what was the architect's agreement based on? They had a fee, 6.25% of the cost of the work. The cost of the work last year was estimated at 46 million and change. So they are due contractually the difference between those two figures. That's what this amendment is accomplishing.
Yeah, no, I get that. I just was trying to figure out, I'm still trying to figure out the process. So it sounds like we went with JCS on May 19th. The board approved that. And then on July 6th, it says a contract was agreed to and finalized. Was that between you and JCS after the board on May 19th?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you approved the superintendent to finalize the contract, and then then we send it out, everybody signs it, and it comes back. So the final contract wasn't executed until, that later date, because we're not going to go forward with the contract until the board gives us authority to do that. So,
and that doesn't use any kind of contingency or anything because of the change in price. Okay.
This is all within budget, not a budgetary issue here.
Gotcha. Thank you for walking me through that, because I just start getting a little cross-eyed with all the dates and numbers, and I want to make sure I understand where they're coming from.
I got confused myself in the different years, and we kind of had some of the same issues. So I completely understand.
Well, and one thing I wanted to say about the contingency log, and I'm sorry to bring this back up, but when you say the date of March 17, 2021, a lot of the contingencies, I think you said the word was released. What is that day? Like there were 15 contingencies. I forget the word, funded, released. I can look it up real quick.
Contingency law.
Yeah.
So
And-
we took that to the board for approval to use the contingency. So yes, they were all released at one time because that's once the board had approved it.
Okay, because like the board approved it on different dates, but it looks like maybe we just all released them on the same, they kind of go to financing on the same day. And the reason is because when you try to find the amendment, sometimes it gets very confusing because you get 317, but it was actually approved by the board on 3-2, which was, for an amendment for work to be done in Q1 2022. So I just was trying to make sure I understood. So 317, that was all the technology stuff, right? That was that one big $9 million technology contingency?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you, sorry.
The only comment I have under key points, the fourth bullet. Okay, an amendment should be written to JCS based on 6.205.
Yeah,
All right.
I saw it sitting in the
Might save us a little bit of money.
No, it's actually supposed to be 6.25%.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
that's a keystroke that got in there that didn't belong.
understand. Okay,
The correct figure
Makes
is
sense.
6.25% of the cost of the work.
okay, no other questions, thank you. So,
I don't think we need an action on this. We were planning to bring this to the board meeting.
Yeah, I have a motion, but that will be for the board.
for the board to make, got it. All right, very good, thank you.
The reason we just brought this in the committee, because number one, we had time. Number two, it was a little confusing. Just wanted to go over any questions y'all had before.
All right,
I appreciate the
you.
extra time you guys take with me on this.
With all of us, Ingrid, you asked great questions. All right, the next item on our agenda is the 8% capital project budget transfer review. That is a mouthful.
Are we doing the, okay, yes. That's what we said. Okay, it's been a work in progress. This is a continuing conversation from what we've had on project contingency use over the last couple of meetings, the board meeting, I think the last operations committee meeting. I believe one of the comments that I received at the last board meeting was when we had the use of contingency funds to come back to the operations committee with a complete list of what we saw as possible uses of the contingency fund. In going through that exercise, what I realized was I kind of went through, started putting what some of our uses were, realized that anything I was looking at could be done cleaner in FY 2023, where we've established the ways to use contingency. Y'all know that there's been a battle here between closing out projects and the ability to use all the contingency funds and how to use past contingency. So where I am for the most part is saying, look, I think we can close out 18, 19, and 20. When I say close out, this is no more additional use of those years. There's still some encumbered funds. We can't officially close them out until all that money works its way through, but there's no reason for us to charge anything new to 18, 19, and 20. And so the suggestion is to bring that forward to the contingency in FY 2023. You see in that slide, if you go to slide 5, that's the dollar line number that we currently have in the contingencies of 18, 19, and 20. Now, as we close out future projects, additional money may go into there, and I'd suggest doing the same thing, just moving it forward to FY 2023, where we've established priorities for contingency fund use. And I think I may have rushed through that a little quickly, but does that make sense?
So this 1.4 million, none of this is already spoken for. This is free and clear, unencumbered.
Correct. And so what I'm suggesting And I just wanted to get some feedback on the thought before I kind of put together any kind of motion, because really it probably needs to say something along the lines of no, or what I'm suggesting is no new uses of 18, 19, and 20. All funds currently and any funds that come into contingency would be moved to FY 2023 project contingency.
That makes sense to me. I mean, we have a prioritized list. My only concern is there anything that is of a priority status up from these years that needs to get moved to that list that was not included?
So if
That
you go
was,
to,
I think, one of my questions the other night.
if you go to slide 4, Robin, what I listed there is kind of the items that are in 18, 19, and 20 that aren't in 23. So right now, athletic equipment is not in 23. But that can be referendum funded. Mobiles are not in 2023. So as of right now, we're waiting on the 45-day data to really see where we are. We're not planning any mobiles for this summer. We may need mobiles next summer. We don't know that today. We won't know that until we start to see the number of kids that come in next year. And if the kids come in high percentages, there's a good chance we're going to need mobiles. So at that time, we would have to add to FY 2023 additional mobiles, because right now they are not there. But where I sit today, say, I know for certain we need mobiles.
Right. Ms. Boatwright?
Yes.
Yeah, so what was the 400, I was trying to pull the number up, 400,000 and something that we added to 2023's 8% projects? Where that money, that was not closeout money. Where'd that money come from?
Well, there's a couple, we did close, and actually I didn't bring that list.
I didn't bring it.
I'm asking a question I wasn't prepared for. Is that the closeout? And I'm gonna look at Colonel Guyer, he may know. Was that the closeout of 17? We did close out
17 and 18.
Yeah, 16 and 17. 16. Yeah, we closed out 16 and 17.
On the list.
Yeah,
16, 17.
so we've already closed out, and those have been completely closed. That means no more money can move in those funds, period. They're done. Now, the problem difference is 18, 19, and 20 aren't done, but they have, we're saying we're done adding any new projects to them. We gotta let whatever in there work, whatever's been encumbered, finish itself out. So hopefully that answered. So I believe that 400,000 you're referring to
That's working.
is from 16 to 17.
Okay, then where did the 400 and some thousand for Coosa Elementary HVAC come from?
You're talking about the last.
Yeah.
That I believe came from 2018. So that's already been subtracted out of it. It actually had, I don't remember if it was 18 or 19, to be honest with you.
I think it was 19.
I think it was 19. So you see there's 260,000 in 19. We've already subtracted out that was encumbered for CUSA from that amount. It was higher previously.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that we took the closeout from 16 and 17 and added it to FY 2023. And again, I just think we should get some standardization on dates, but the 8% project we just finished. And then there was 400,000 from FY 2019 that we've already carved out of this remaining project contingency and spent on CUSA HVAC.
Yes, it's encumbered.
And that's above and beyond the 260 figure that you see on slide 5. That was already done before this slide was prepared.
And if I go back to the closeout list, well, no, because the closeout list on the construction update is just Q1 2021, right? You don't have the previous 3 years of closeout. I know I've seen that somewhere though. We have that somewhere.
That closeout list that you saw in the construction update, that is specific to referendum projects.
Okay. And this is this specific to 8% projects then, right?
Yes.
Specific only to 8%.
Yes.
Do we have a list of the closeout? I know you gave it to us at some point. I was trying to think of what meeting it was in that shows that what projects are on the 8% closeout still need to be closed out, right? We can see those somewhere.
The list that we get from financial services monthly, similar to the 519 referendum report, we receive them for all of the 8% years as well. And if you go back and look at FY 16 and 17, they've been color coded, all green. If you look at those tabs, they're all closed. When you get into these other ones, it will show you which ones are still open. They have no shading. They have the ones that are green that indicate they're closed. And what we are currently using is an orange color coding for those that we believe are now to a point where final closeout can occur, and then we can sweep those funds as well. But that's the report. So those are available out there. And with the color coding, that's sort of the key plan, if you will, on where each of the 8% projects are.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
My question was, is going to be, where are the mobile units that we currently have?
Where are the mobiles we currently have?
Right.
So, in northern Beaufort, throughout the district, we have a 5 classroom mobile at Coosa. We have, I believe, 2 double wides at Beaufort High.
We have 6 total on at Beaufort.
We have the 6 classrooms at Beaufort.
I was going back there. I think let me rephrase my question. I rephrased it wrong. I apologize. I do apologize for that. Didn't we just buy some mobile units not long ago?
You did purchase the units out there at Beaufort Elementary.
Right.
The district realized that you not only needed them to support the swing space there, but at other campuses at the referendum. So those were purchased.
2 years. Yeah.
It was actually like last summer, I think, or spring is when we negotiated that with the mobile manufacturer.
So south of the Broad, the most recent ones, of course, May River has a 10 classroom. River Ridge Academy's got 10 total mobiles between the 2 double wides and the 6 classroom. Pritchardville has 10 total mobile classrooms between a 8, I think it's an 8 and
right. Hold on, Mr. Otten. My question is, with all this construction, I'm talking about, I just want to know exactly where the mobiles are that are having construction work done right now. Because my thing is, I don't want us to buy all these mobile units and then we can pull mobile units from other projects once those construction works, once those projects are done, and use those mobiles. I don't want us to get, I don't think we should, if we just using them for the sake of using them until construction is done, then we shouldn't get in the business of buying a whole bunch of mobile units, is my concern.
My concern right now is you're kind of straying away from the use of contingency funds. Do you see it that way too, Mr. Smith, or not? I mean, I think it's a great conversation to have about mobiles, but I think in the greater scheme of things.
He brought that up. He said that we may need more mobiles, and so my question is, why do we need more mobiles? If that's what he's saying, it sounds like if my memory serves me correct, it sounded like he was saying that we may have to purchase more mobiles. And my question was, why would we purchase mobiles? And if so, how much will we need? But also, do we not have mobiles out there that we can utilize? So
right,
that's my
and
question.
I think that yes, and that's a great question, and I think that once we get numbers in for the 45-day count, then that will be a very valid conversation to have as to how to fund or even use mobiles. But for our purposes today, we're talking about capital projects, transferring of the contingency funds. So, Robert, are you recommending that we take this to the full board with the recommendation that we move these project contingency funds forward?
Yes.
Okay. So are there any more questions about that part of this, about moving the contingency funds from fiscal year 2018, 19, and 20 to fiscal year 2023, the 1.4 million? Ms. Boatwright, you're muted.
So again, get back to process. We just closed out the FY 2023 8% projects, right? That's what we just did?
No, we just
You just
approved them.
it.
Approved
We just
that, right. Close out's the wrong word, sorry. But we just did that process and to completion, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what I wonder, are we saying that we would then reopen it and add this money and go, because we have that whole black-red thing, which is supposed to be the next set of priorities, right?
Right, you don't have to reopen it up the way it's
Well, I know.
structured. You're
Metaphorically.
just this funds and saying we're gonna put it in the contingency to use for those projects below the black line.
Yeah, allows us to push that line down that we had discussed.
Right.
Okay, so then I guess my question procedurally is, you've also suggested here on slide number 4, several things like camera replacement referendum funded, playground equipment replaces. Are you saying that those are things we should consider or things we don't need to consider because the referendum funded
Now, I
it?
would add at the bottom, the only thing I was on this slide when I did it was athletic equipment, because I had 2 athletic requests but they can be dealt with referendum funds. So they are athletic equipment items at schools with referendum athletic budgets that these can be paid for with. So I need to take away that bottom line. I'm changing. Okay. So I'm at this time not asking for any additional projects to be added to FY 2023. I just wanted to bring to your attention the things that we do not have in 2023 that could be needed at some point in the future.
These are the type of items, I guess, on slide 4 that historically sometimes creep into the equation, and like fire dampers. These are areas that when we go out and get an inspection for the work that's performed, we find out, oh, well, we want you to put some more fire dampers in.
Yeah. And what I'm saying by FY 2021, there are current money that we're in FY 2021 that we are currently using for fire dampers. So there is a funding source for that at this time.
So the overall question is, does this committee want to recommend to the full board that these project contingency funds of 1.4 be moved forward to FY 2023? Is that?
Yep, or do you want to see something else, or what's your, yeah.
Okay.
I'm kind of
So,
just asking.
Colonel Geyer, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think it should be supported just as written.
Okay. Any other questions? So then do we have a motion that can suggest to bring this forward to the full board?
Can Mr. Audi repeat what he wants the motion to be, or what he's hoping to have as a motion?
Let me work on that,
Okay.
because I want to go through some of finance and make sure it's okay. Can you, what I would say is maybe you bring forward to the full board the project contingency funds with a consideration, or something like with a consideration for moving the contingency, well.
A future motion?
Yeah, I don't know.
A future motion?
I wasn't ready for the motion.
Okay.
For the full board.
So why don't we just have a motion to bring this presentation
Right.
to the full board, and then if there's a motion coming out of that on the 29th, so be it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll
Take off the.
I feel better about that.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Kick off the athletics.
All right, so if you would make a motion to that end, Ms. Boatright?
Yep, I move that we bring the 8%, the 8% capital project budget transfer review presentation to the full board.
And I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion about it? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Audi and Mrs. Corbin. Okay, and the last thing,
Last, we have 2 more.
I know we do. If we get to it, it's going on almost 2 hours. So Buck Island Road Sewer System Easement Request.
Yes, so this was brought to me from an engineer working for a private citizen that is requesting a sewer easement for an area across our property. So Robin, if you could bring up
that PDF that's got the number on it, that's got the aerial photo? And basic, and my understanding, this work has already been done. And they did it prior to requesting an easement, and now Beaufort Jasper won't allow them to turn live until the board approves an easement. So just for, I'm bringing to you the request, and that's just what I understand about it. Can you blow that up? The blue line, that light blue line at the bottom, yeah, that's the area. And actually, I'm gonna walk up here, maybe get out of the camera, just so y'all can see it. But it's this area, actually from here to here. This is our property, all this is our property, and the property owner is actually a little bit south of there. And so he's extending, he needs a 15-foot easement for the sewer extension that extends the sewer that that Beaufort Jasper had on Buck Island to his property. And it goes across our property to get there. And what he has given us is the standard Beaufort Jasper water and sewer easement agreement. So we're actually not giving it to the property owner, we're giving the easement to Beaufort Jasper water and sewer. Basically for a line that's already in place.
Ms. Boatright?
So we don't know what, yeah, I thought it was a Beaufort Jasper water easement, which is a little bit different. Are we sure it's not like a developer who just kind of didn't want to pay to go around the school property, or is it just pretty standard? It makes me concerned that they did it without talking to anybody, and then now they're kind of like putting this standard sort of seal on it. Do we know who the private party is?
The name of the person that it goes to is on the survey in the corner. Juan Pablo Montezuma. So if you look on the survey, you can see who the survey was prepared for, and that's the property owner. Because he owns the property, like 2 properties down from us that it's going.
Is that the one that's got the 267 in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where that 267 in real small print is where it's located. So you said this isn't the proper way of doing it. I'm not going to endorse this in any way, but that's where we are, and that's what what's being requested.
So what is the use of this easement?
It is for the sewer line.
For actually the sewer line. So if we were to deny this,
They would never get sewer.
they would never get,
They couldn't energize it.
They would take us to court. You
Sure.
would lose.
yeah, because
Well,
this is a
will.
basic
They would take
human.
us to court and we would lose.
And the reason it's going to Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer is once it's constructed, they are the end owners of the sewer, not the property owner, not us.
Yeah.
Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer maintains and owns the sewer
And
system.
that's the key, is that the maintenance side of it is Beaufort Jasper Sewer Water that would have to get back in there and need that easement in the future, not the property owner that's in
Right.
that.
This wasn't some crazy development that was trying to, finagle their way out of paying sewer fees for, when you don't do things the proper way, you got to make sure there's nothing else, lying in wait for you down the road.
It is not a large development. My understanding is it's an individual property owner. So I will say that.
Okay. And your recommendation?
I mean, I think like Colonel Guy, I do not endorse this in any way. They should have brought this to the board sooner, and it should have gone through the proper channels. What I would say is the area that they're going through, there is no use for us. It harms us in no way. We have no need or concern about the area the sewer line is going through. So for that reason, I see no issue in accepting it and endorsing it and giving them these. If it was an area, like if they did this in properly, and this was an area that we were concerned about, we may want to think about, what are our legal actions or whatever.
Yeah.
Where this is located, I do not see any issue with it.
I'm gonna meet with Jim Grovesley, the attorney for Beaufort Jasper, about this, because I wanted page 2 of the survey, just the one page.
Ms. Robine?
So it looks like there's a gap between the blue line and where the 267 is.
Yes.
The blue line indicates where they're asking for an easement. So did they already get an easement from above 267 to the blue line?
That would be my understanding. That is not our property, so they would have to deal with that property owner. Or actually, on the survey, it appears that there already may be a sewer manhole there. So it's off our property. It is not our issue, but if you'll notice, the survey already shows that as existing and in the right of way, where they had to carry it on our property, and it did not go through our property before.
Okay. It also looks like I'm in that block 267. It looks like there's two structures towards the back of it when I blow it up on my computer. Just an observation.
Yeah, I think they've already built the structure and they're not able to tie into sewer without this easement, is my understanding.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Otting, you think that there would be no future use for this, would not be another access point at some time, and even if it was, it would not impede our ability to do so?
If you wanted to do that, you could still do that over a sewer.
Okay, all right, are there any other questions about this? If not, do you need a motion
I would need at the board.
recommendation?
Yeah, to authorize the superintendent to go into an easement agreement with this property owner. I will write that for the next.
So do you want the operations committee to, with unanimous approval, to bring it to the full board?
Yes.
So Ms. Boatright or Mr. Smith, would you be willing to fashion a motion that says that unanimous approval of the operations committee to bring this forward for approval to the full board?
Can we say something like, I move that the board, the operations committee recommends to the full board approval of this easement? Not the way you want to go?
Yep, that would, I think, do it, right, Mr. Otting? Mm-hmm. Yep, Mr. Smith, are you willing to second that?
I know, because one, my computer's acting up and I can't really see it right now. And two, I just want to make sure that we're fair and objective and that we have this same approach for everyone moving forward. So I do have some concerns here. I mean, I do have some concerns. I do have some more concerns, so I could support this motion at this time.
Well, I do think, Mr. Smith, and I may be speaking out of turn, that this will come, this is not, the board still has to approve it. So you can ask your questions to at the board meeting as well, right? We're not officially approving or directing. We're just saying it's, we would be recommending that the board approve it. But we'll still have it.
But I'm not even I wouldn't even feel comfortable recommending.
No, I get you.
Yeah.
I just thought
Okay.
I want to make sure for my own sake that this is not a done deal, that what's going to come before the full board.
I will second it then. So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Yes, can I get the wording again? I move that the operations committee recommends to the full board the approval of this easement request.
Yes. I don't know if you want to put in there Buck Island Road Sewer System easement request, just to keep it all.
I will.
And Mr. Smith, I understand your concern. I thought about other easements that we've been asked for and have not approved. And those were not sewer easements, they were driveway easements. So I think I understand where, if that was your concern.
Right. Yes. Well, yeah, I mean, I understand. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let us know when you're ready, Robin.
I'm ready.
Okay, could you just read it back for us, please?
I move that the operations committee recommends to the full board the approval of the Buck Island Road Sewer System easement request.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against, say nay.
Hey.
So that is 2 yeses and 1 nay. Motion approved. Okay. It is almost 6:30. We have 2 very important items left on the agenda. So I would certainly entertain a motion to have a special meeting next week to continue or to look at those last two items. Is this of interest to the committee members?
Yes, yes, this is, I would, second that motion.
I'll
Okay,
third it.
so I would,
If I can.
what,
I don't know if there's any time sensitivity to this. So, you know, we can look at it as far as like we've done with the 8%, you know, we're presenting it, give y'all a chance to review it, come back in the next meeting with questions. It's whether you feel like it needs to happen next week or if it can wait till July. I'm just saying, I don't know of a pressure, I don't know of a time pressure on it.
I think the only time pressure on it would be to have all the OEs completed so that Dr. Rodriguez, I guess, so that might not be till October for the annual review.
Now, that being said.
Annual
you're
review
gonna
is in
get-
August to look at the OEs for the work plan. So they're trying to get all the OEs completed so that we can discuss them at the work in August.
Now, I wouldn't be surprised at the beginning of July if you don't get hit with the HR, which is going to be another pretty
Right.
massive lift.
Right.
So I'm not against having another meeting. I just wanted to let you know,
Right.
I'm not pushing anything for time wise.
Right.
And we have two for safety and security and FOIA.
So they're about to start coming. Yes.
Right,
You're about to
right.
get more.
So it would be the committee's pleasure. How do you all feel about putting this off to our next regularly scheduled operations committee meeting or to have a special meeting?
I'd like to have a special meeting. I feel like our agendas are pretty fulsome to begin with.
Yeah, I agree. That's fine.
Okay, so can we have a motion to that end, please?
Next week.
Sure. I move that the operations committee hold a special called meeting to discuss OE 8 and 9 interpretation. Is that right?
Yes, that will work.
Correct. I mean,
Mr.
yes. Second it.
Thank you. Any more
It's
discussion?
dangerous letting me make all these motions. Something's going to go sideways. Get it up here.
Hey, this is teamwork made the dream work. I appreciate your teammate.
I'm as next week as well.
Graduation.
Okay. Did she say next week or she just said to have a special?
Did you say next week?
I did not. I just said have. So
Okay, so if there are no more discussion, all in favor?
aye.
Say
Aye.
aye, that's unanimous. And so, Robin, could I ask you to query everyone and see when would be a good time to have another meeting for these two operational expectations?
Yes, but I need to know if you're talking about morning, afternoons, says graduations are all scheduled and the evenings of the following week are full. So are you looking for mornings, afternoons, so that I know what days to query? Or your regular agenda time?
I would love afternoon before either the Beaufort High, Battery Creek High, or Whale Branch Early College, because then I'll be on that side.
Okay, so let's look at those three dates and provide Robin with availability.
Beaufort's Monday, Wellbright's Wednesday, Battery Creek is Friday.
Battery Creek.
This-
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, sorry, Mr. Smith.
I thought you asked for a motion to adjourn. I made the motion.
Yes, I was. Thank you
Are you
very
doing
much.
future topic?
No, we'll do that at the next one.
Okay.
Okay, because we'll finish out the agenda at the next one. All right. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.